Hi everyone, my name is Jeff. Welcome to Rocket Rose Art. Today's little tip video is basically just talking about how to repurpose old ceramic items and stainless steel items into fused glass molds. Before I get into this, I just wanted to let you know that there's a community tab on the channel now, and I have been posting a couple of things on there like polls and some questions. So I'd really appreciate any feedback from you. So if you want to have a look at the community tab every now and then and just respond to anything that I put up there, that'd be great. It'll help me understand exactly what you guys are looking for. Don't forget, please put any comments or questions for each video in the comments section for that video as well. And if you like it, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. Now today I do have some notes for myself here because I've got a few things to say, so forgive me as I refer to them. So what we're talking about today is repurposing things like ceramic bowls and that you may find in cheap stores or even in second-hand stores. Now you can repurpose these as molds. Now ceramic molds that are specifically for fused glass can be quite expensive, so this is a really inexpensive way to get yourself some molds and some really unusual molds as well. So I'll just show you a few things here that I've got, that I've used, and some I haven't quite used yet. They'll give you an idea of what you can do. So when it comes to the ceramic ones, this is one that I've used that works really well. You can see it's a very interesting shape with the, I'll lift it up. It's a very interesting shape with the corners that come up, and it's nice and flat on the bottom, so it produces a really nice plate. Another one I'm going to use that has a really interesting shape, again flat on the bottom. Now it has quite steep sides there, but I don't expect the slump to actually fill in those sides. It'll be a smoother curve there. Another one, really interesting shape, makes like a double platter. One I haven't used, and it's going to be interesting to work out whether it works, but it's got some nice slow sides on it, sort of slow slope on that, or a low angle, whichever way you want to put it. So I'm hoping, I haven't, as you can see it's pretty dirty and I haven't actually done anything with it. I'm hoping that that will actually work. Now these are all ceramic. This is one, it's not the one I've used, but I think it's for garlic bread that I use to make pattern bars in there. It's got slightly sloped sides, so the pattern bar comes out nice and easily. And all of these are coated with boron nitride. And then when it comes to stainless steel, oh, there's a ceramic one I haven't tried yet, but that might be interesting, cutting all that out on a ring saw maybe. Now when it comes to stainless steel, you've probably seen people use cocktail shakers for draping, so you drape something over the top of it. You can also use the lid to make like a little tea light, drape that over the top of that. And bowls can all be used for draping if they're a bit too steep and not suitable for slumping. Bigger ones like this you can slump into. And here's an interesting one I found. It's actually a spoon rest, a really interesting shape. I'm hoping that if I cut a bit of glass, I'm going to make a really interesting spoon rest. So that gives you an idea of what you can get and what you can do by repurposing these items. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is where do you get these things from? Now just keep in mind that you're trying to get things cheap and interesting shapes of course, but you are trying to get things cheap. So the sorts of places I look in are places like second-hand stores, charity shops, just the cheap shops where you can buy new things pretty much for a couple of dollars. I've also sourced things from friends as well, and even things that we've had here that were past their life. So keep your eyes open. There are many places where you can get these things from. Okay, so what should you consider when you're looking for these things? Well, there's a number of things to consider and to pay attention to. When it comes to ceramic items, you want to make sure that it's nice and stable. If there are no cracks in it and no big chips or anything like that, that will affect the integrity of the piece. Remember, it's going to go into a kiln, so it's under some stress, and if it has any flaws in it, it's likely that it's going to crack on you. Excuse me. Remember that these things will all, when you're slumping into them, the glass will pick up any imperfections and all the contours. So you really need to consider that when you're looking at these pieces. Is it going to produce what you think it's going to produce? When it comes to stainless steel, you don't want any dents in it, because if there's dents in it, they're going to come out in the final piece. Any deep gouges or anything like that, they're going to come out in the final piece. With ceramics, you don't want any textures in it that you don't want in the final piece. You don't want the piece to have a feature in it that allows the glass to wrap around like an undercut. If it does that, it's going to not allow you to get it out of the mould, and it'll be trapped in there and you'll have no option but to break it, unfortunately. When it comes to all moulds, stainless steel or ceramic, consider the curve on it. If it's a steep curve, the chances are that the glass is not going to conform to that steep curve. It's going to slip down and you're going to get a piece that is much further down and a more gradual curve, or it's just going to distort. The other thing is, anything, when it comes to stainless steel, anything that's a reasonably steep curve will be a problem potentially, because steel contracts quicker than glass does. So if you've used something using stainless steel and the slump's gone fine, but the steel has contracted onto the glass so that it's trapped it there, again, you're going to have to break the glass to get it out. So look for things that have a more gradual curve on them, so that that bowl will release easier. When draping, it's not so much of a problem, but still keep in mind anything like undercuts where it can drape over it and tuck itself in and therefore trap the mould in it. Other thing I should mention is that with all of these, if you've got a reasonably steep curve and the glass fits neatly in there, like circular, it can potentially trap glass underneath, and then when it slumps down, you could end up with a bubble. So look at them carefully, and if you think it's going to do that, just drill a couple of small holes in the bottom, and I say just small holes, and that allows any trapped air to escape out the bottom and reduce the chances of a bubble. What else? You may depends on what you're going to do. Are you going to put it on a stand, or you want it to sit on a table? If you want it to sit on table, you want a flat bottom on the mould. Often these things come curved, so you will have to put them on a stand, or you maybe put on some of those, those little rubber bump-ons. So consider that when you're looking at things that you're going to use. And I think that's about it as far as selecting these things. It's basically common sense. Once you get to know glass and how it forms and how it reacts to different things, you'll get an idea of exactly what you're looking for in these things. Now, ceramic things, well, not just ceramic things, both of these, ceramic, stainless steel, make sure you clean it really well before you use it. These things can have all sorts of things on them. Stainless steel, new stainless steel items often have a light oil over them through the manufacturing process. So you want to try and clean that all off as much as possible. And even if you can, with stainless steel, I sometimes lightly fire it in there just so that I can make sure that it's nice and clean. With ceramics, they do have a glaze on them. You can probably see that. Hopefully you can see the reflection on that. So they do have a glaze on them. That glaze in ceramics fires at a much higher temperature than the temperatures we use for glasswork. So the chances are that's not going to cause a problem. I've never actually used a piece with the glaze still on it. So what I do, and because this is smooth as well, and you are wanting to spray this with boron nitride, to get that boron nitride to adhere properly, I sandblast all of mine. So I pretty much sandblast that glaze right off. You can probably do something similar if you don't have a sandblast with just some wet and dry sandpaper. Just enough to take that nice, well, it's not nice in this case, it's a nuisance, that shiny surface off of it, just so that boron nitride got something to grip onto. Now the final thing there is that you can full fuse in the ceramic ones when it's coated with boron nitride. I've done it many times, but I've only ever full fused in these to make pattern bars. So you can, if you can get a decent mould like that, go and look for a garlic bread mould. You can, if you want to make pattern bars, full fuse in these. Stainless, good idea to scuff them up. They're pretty shiny as well. You can just spray them with the boron nitride. You'll need to do a few coats. I typically spray them with boron nitride and fire it before I use it for a mould. But if they're too shiny, just get some wet and dry sandpaper and scuff them up so that the boron nitride will adhere a bit better. But I only say lightly, because remember, glass will pick up everything that it slumps into, so you don't want any deep scratches in this or in your moulds. So just be, when you're preparing them, if you are going to sand out any little imperfections in the moulds, just do it gradually and gently until you get a nice finish on that, because otherwise it will show up in your final piece. Now when it comes to storing, I was asked recently about how I store moulds, so I thought I'd just cover that quickly. I store all of my moulds in a dedicated cabinet here. Stainless steel moulds I store generally upside down, so the surface that has the boron nitride in it is upside down, so that you don't get dust in there, and even in a cabinet it can still get dust in it. Ceramic moulds, I try to store them just sitting on the shelf, again upside down if I can. If not, I put some bubble wrap over them. And if I'm storing things inside each other just because of space, I always put bubble wrap in them to protect them, because you really don't want to mark up that surface. And stainless steel, when you've sanded this, and it's not sanded it, when you've sprayed boron nitride on it, and it's not the easiest thing to do, you don't want to mark that boron nitride, because it will show up again in anything you slump in it. I made that mistake. I didn't think it would show up. I thought, oh, that's not a problem, it's very light. But it did show up, unfortunately. So you want those surfaces to be as perfect as you can get them. Well, that is actually it. I've finished this time. Don't forget, if you've got any questions or comments, put them in the comments section below. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button. So, as usual, if you're looking for a couple of more videos to watch, you'll find some suggested ones up the top, and that subscribe button there if you haven't subscribed with me before. I'd appreciate that. And until the next video, I'll say bye for now.